I mean, obviously, I can't comment on sort of private conversations and accounts of them, but I think we haven't made a secret of the fact that we find it hard to see how, as currently operated, important elements of the protocol are sustainable. So I don't think that's kind of new judgment. We've also said that we are considering all our options, and we are doing so. There is a real world timetable to things that needs to be taken into account when we do that. So that's sort of where we are at the moment, where we're actively considering the options to deal with the situation that is it's hard to see as sustainable. I would just pick up one comment you made on negotiations, because I said earlier that I think in many areas negotiations there wasn't a lot of traction. That's not true of absolutely every area, and we are having lots of technical discussions with the Commission. We have put in our proposal to extend the grace period on chilled meats, which expires very soon, and I know both sides are thinking very actively about that. So I wouldn't want to leave the impression that nothing is happening. Quite a lot is happening. In one or two areas there's engagement, and in other areas it's more difficult. So I'm not saying that nobody suggested that such a thing could happen. I think what we've seen, though, is that the effect has been pretty marked, and actually one of the things that's been pretty marked, not just on GBNI movements, but in other areas of trade in and around Northern Ireland, is how rapidly companies have responded to the different incentives and the different possibilities for moving goods, and that has happened pretty rapidly. I think the other point I would make was that when we agreed the protocol in 2019, obviously a lot of these matters remain to be worked out. The whole concept of goods at risk was not properly worked through and was explicitly left until later. And we had been working on the assumption that we would secure things in those negotiations in 2020 on implementation of the protocol that would be part of a pragmatic implementation, and that we would also secure things in the TCA that it turned out we couldn't. For example, we asked for an equivalence mechanism on agri-food. That wasn't granted. We asked for cooperation amongst regulators, which is a normal part of FTAs. That wasn't granted. So it turned out we're operating in rather a different sort of framework by the end of 2020 than the one we probably had in mind in 2019.